Hi everyone, I hope you're doing well. Today it's time to set up our planners for May and I'll show you this very bright and fun spring flower theme that I'll be using in my Hobonichi cousin. I've had really light and muted colors in my past 2 monthly themes, so this time I wanted to do something a little bit more happy and colorful. And if you're new around here, my way of using the Hobonichi is by choosing a color and decoration theme for each month that I stick to, and it's usually based on certain items in my stationery collection. This month, I really wanted to use these Ikigai Papir spring stickers, which I believe are from last year. I have so many of these bright, colorful stickers that all match together. And then I also have these plant and girl stickers from by Charizze, which I think have a similar vibe. And I'll try to include these in the pages as well. I'll also show you some other products I pulled out from my collection. So here are some colorful sparkle stickers from Kiara T Designs. Then some washi tapes in similar colors and a few neutral text patterns that I think will add a nice contrast to all the colorful stuff. But anyway, now let's start by setting up the cover spread for the month, which I use these extra pages for in the daily section. I've been using the Hobonichi for a few months now, and I think it's so fun how the colors and decorations change when I flip through the pages. So these cover spreads are just a nice way to set the tone for the upcoming month, since I don't really have any functional purpose for these pages. The main item I wanted to use on this cover page was this large collage sticker from Hedda's shop. By the way, if you're new to the journaling space on YouTube, Ikigai Papir is the shop run by Hedda from Mocha, and I absolutely love her stickers. I have a huge collection of them. She has gifted me some, but I've also bought a lot of them myself, so I'm not sure which is the case with these ones. Anyway, I thought this white scribbly washi tape looked nice in the background. This is from my own shop. And then we'll write a large May title on this peach colored paper. I have a lot of these colorful and textured papers available as free downloads in the freebie section of my shop. So if you've been looking for some scrapbooking basics, I'll leave a link to that in the video description. One of my goals this month is to play with different title fonts. I think this theme will be perfect for some bubbly brush pen style lettering. And I also really want to practice using my Tombow Fudenosuke pens for writing, because that's still something I struggle with for some reason. So yeah, I hope I get to experiment with some fun titles this month. And to this one, I also added this white highlight effect using a Uniposca marker, which didn't show up quite as much as I hoped. But anyway, then we'll cut out the title and figure out the placement for all the decorations here. I wanted to keep this page quite simple, so I'm not adding much else apart from the big sticker. But I also wanted to draw some small flowers around the page using a few brush pen colors. I tried to match the colors to the sticker sheets I showed earlier, and I'll show you my brush pen swatch page in a bit and walk through all the colors I'm planning to use this month. So here we are just drawing these very simple small flowers. I tried to space the colors out evenly and focus the flowers more towards the top and bottom of the page, leaving the center a little bit more empty. I wasn't sure how I felt about this at first, but after adding some dots and small sparkles between the flowers, I think it started to look a little bit better. This whole style is definitely more colorful than what I typically go for, but I was having so much fun using these brighter colors that don't usually get much use from my pen collection. But after finishing all the flowers and sparkles, we are done with the cover page. So now let's flip to the back of my journal where I have my pen and ink swatches. So first of all, the 4 or 5 brush pens I already used are light olive, chrome orange, coral, and purple sage. Peach is the very light color I used for some of the dots in between. And then I also pulled out dark olive and this dusty greenish blue color called Holy Green. Of course, there are a lot of other colors that could match with this collection, pretty much any of the yellow or orange shades, and even some of the pink tones, but I thought these specific colors were probably the best match with the sticker sheets I have. And even though these are very bright, I think they all still look super pretty together, and I'm really looking forward to creating some more doodles and fun titles with these colors. Then I've started this habit where I used a colored ink on my daily pages, and I think I'll use this bright summery green, which is the Sailor Shikiori ink in the color Tokiwa Matsu. I think this is the perfect grass green color, and I think it looks a little bit darker when written compared to the larger swatch. Then, before we move to the monthly calendar, I'll quickly fill out my theme overview page, which is this super cramped decoration explosion for which I use the timetable page. I kinda like how this looks. I think it's fun to see all my decoration themes from this year, but at the same time, there's so much going on that looking at this page makes me a little bit uncomfortable. But anyway, I didn't really have a name for this theme, so I'm just calling it the Spring Garden. But after we're done here, let's jump to the beginning of the journal and decorate the monthly calendar spread. I use this calendar as my social media tracker and to list any bigger work or shop related deadlines. And we are gonna continue with something very colorful here. I started by covering the weekly titles with these TWSBI monthly kits. I've been mixing different colors to match my monthly themes, and this time I went for the brighter ones. Then I used this light green thin washi tape, which I released in multiple colors in my shop with the spring items. I've loved using these, and you guys have seemed to be excited about them too, so I'm actually working on a few new colors for the summer launch. But after decorating the calendar itself, I moved to the top corner where I like to hide the Hobonichi information first. It's such a good spot for some bigger decorations, especially in the months that don't start on this first Monday, and I don't really need to see the information here. So this time I decided to draw some small flowers in this otherwise useless area. We're using the same 4 brush pens from the cover page, and this time I'm drawing some very simple tulips and these 5 petal flowers. I wasn't super careful with the shapes or anything, so they don't look super defined, but I think overall this still gives the effect we're going for. After adding the leaves to these flowers, I added just a few more stickers at the top and then later at the bottom corner. The girl sticker I added at the bottom almost covered everything else, but I think it looks pretty nevertheless, so I decided to leave it like this. After that, I decided to commit to these flowers. So we are actually gonna draw this whole bottom edge with these same tulip flowers. And even though this looks kinda almost messy at first, I still really like how it ended up looking like. So that's it for all the decorations, and now I'll just write a few things here in the calendar. I usually start by adding these bigger labels for all my YouTube videos. So we're gonna start with a weekly plan with me video this month, and then we have the typical painting tutorial and June plan with me video. And then at the last Saturday, I am planning to do the summer launch over on my shop. I'm not completely sure about this date just yet. I will of course update you later in May. This month, apart from the videos, my main focus will be to prepare for the summer launch and also to keep up with my current weekly routine, because I feel like I've had a really good productive routine for the past few weeks. So I really want to keep up with that, and I also want to focus on reading more this month, because every time I record a reading journal video, I get so excited about all the books on my reading list that I really want to get to as soon as possible. These colored dots will be for my social media tracking, so the different colors are posts on different social media accounts. But I think that's pretty much it for the monthly calendar. I think this spread is definitely more colorful than I typically go for again, but for some reason I really like this. I feel happy just by looking at it. It's such a cheerful color combination. But anyway, we'll chat more about the weekly and daily spreads in the upcoming weekly plan with me video. So for now, let's move on to the April flip through part. And I've decided to continue recording voiceovers for these because setting up the mic and everything at my desk is kind of a hassle, so this is just a little bit easier for me. So let's start with the monthly spread, where you can get a pretty good look at how I use this calendar. I was trying to be pretty active on Instagram this month. Well, active might not be the right word, but at least I try to post consistently. I have such a weird relationship with Instagram because updating it regularly is technically part of my job, but at the same time, I try to limit my social media usage as much as possible. I don't know if you guys feel the same, but I have found myself scrolling on Instagram way more now that it's so reel heavy. It's the same problem I had with TikTok, which is also why I don't use that app. I think it's just too addicting. And every time I use it, I feel like I could have used that time to do something more productive. And that actually leads me to another topic I kind of wanted to touch on, because last month I mentioned that it was my goal to take off all weekends in April. And I'm happy to report that I could actually do that, at least until now. I've actually had a really productive and focused month, and one significant change I've made was to lock all social media apps from my phone until 4 p.m. and I also prohibited myself from consuming any type of entertainment during my work time, even on lunch break. I think I heard Emma Chamberlain talking about this in her podcast, and it just completely clicked in my brain when I heard her talk about it. So in the past, I usually had a video or a podcast or something in the background while I was working, but even though it makes the work time more enjoyable, I think it also makes me slower, and especially a problem I have is that it makes procrastinating difficult work tasks very easy. I feel like switching to work mode after consuming entertainment and getting that dopamine hit to your brain is so difficult. And I've noticed that when I don't consume anything, I'm much more focused and actually get my work done so that I have more free time in the evenings and weekends. So yeah, who would have thought? I know some of you are like, duh, of course that works. But for me, it was something that I kind of had to discover. Wow, I'm sorry for talking about that for so long, but luckily I don't really have anything to say about these weekly pages. I forgot to mention that I was mostly using items from my Swan Lake spring collection this month. So lots of light neutrals like beige, light blue, muted pink, and green tones. I tried a habit tracker on my first weekly spread just to switch things up, and I actually kind of liked it, so I might include that in my future spreads as well. Otherwise, I've been using the weekly spreads the same way as before, so making a general daily plan, usually for a few days at a time. And of course, some things always change. Sometimes I update those things on these pages, but pretty often I just leave them and use the daily pages for more up-to-date task lists. This is the current week, and I kind of like the top section where I used this thin washi tape to cover the daily info. I think these weekday stickers fit the space perfectly. I filmed this flip through part on Thursday, so I'll probably still write a few things here, but I try not to stress about filling up every space. If there's a bigger gap somewhere, I think it's a good opportunity to add a small decoration, but I don't always bother to do that. But then let's move to the daily section. I wanted to quickly show you this monthly reflection I usually do on the last day of the month. I don't remember if I've mentioned this in my previous videos, but I used to always have a monthly reflection in my bullet journal, and it's something I want to keep doing, but it's kind of difficult to find a space for it in this journal. In March, the 31st happened to be our last day in Bali, so I didn't want to use that page for a reflection, but I'll probably do that at the end of this month again. Anyway, let's start flipping through the daily pages. So I've still been covering anything more personal with these paper patterns. Usually that's stuff involving other people, which of course I don't want to share online. I don't really care if you read my own thoughts, but of course, other people are a completely different thing. If you do read my text here, be prepared for a lot of spelling mistakes and extremely boring, repetitive daily scribbles. Our cat, Luna, was super needy after we came back from our short vacation. I feel like we can never leave her again. So yeah, I think her guilt tripping definitely worked on me. I've also been reading the Mistborn series this past month, which I talked more about in my reading journal video. So around here, I finished the first book, which is The Final Empire. I've tried to write about non-work related things on the weekends. I think I've mentioned in my past videos that I don't really have a journaling routine for weekends. So a lot of these Saturday and Sunday pages are actually written on Monday mornings. But that's kind of a lot to update all at once because I also set up the new weekly spread. So I've tried to write at least a little bit either on Saturday or Sunday. Again, you can see that I've had a lot of fun trying to find different combinations with my spring collection items. I hope these pages give some inspiration if you've picked up some of those products as well. They are still available in my shop if you're interested. But anyway, also one thing I tried this month with my daily task lists was writing 2 or 3 of the most important items. So kind of the non-negotiable things that absolutely need to get done by the end of the day. I didn't do this every day and I'm not sure if I'll keep it up, but on days when I had a really long to-do list, I think it was helpful to list those top priorities. This month we also had to renew my residence card here in Japan, and well, you can probably tell how I felt about that process from this page. For the most part, I've still been so happy using this journal. I think it definitely improves my focus and productivity to write this kind of task list and some thoughts every morning. Of course, there are days when I feel like I have nothing to say besides writing the task list and I just kind of want to get on with my day. So on those days, I usually decorate a little bit more, either in the morning or even the next day if I have more time. So I try not to push myself to write something when I really don't feel like it. I've also kept up with the journaling prompts whenever I have some extra time or just don't know what to write about. They're often surprisingly hard, but I feel like they really wake up my brain in the mornings, especially the more creative or thoughtful ones. The full 120 prompt list is also available in the freebie section of my shop in case you wanna download it to yourself and try them out. But I think that's pretty much it for the April flip through. I really hope this was interesting or helpful to at least some of you. There are still a few days left in the month and I'll post a faster flip through short at the very end of the month. And then we'll be back with a weekly plan with me video in about 2 weeks. But yeah, I think that's all for this time. If this was your first time around here and you'd like to see more art and journaling content, definitely consider subscribing. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you're having a lovely day or night wherever you are, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye!